Hi everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read of Yule Lad's Legend, A Christmas Story by Heidi Herman. There have been trolls in the Iceland since the time of settlement. Some are mean and nasty, and some are shy, but all are magical creatures who live for a very long time. There are 13 of these trolls who are brothers and are very special. Their mother is the terrible orc Grayla, who likes to make mean kids stew out of children who misbehave. Because they visit the villages near Christmas time, these 13 trolls became known as the Yule Lads. The Yule Lads loved being in the villages during the holidays. It was a perfect time for the Yule Lads to swipe food and other goodies, play, play, play pranks on the unsuspecting townfolk, and generally create havoc. They weren't very nice, but none were as mean and wicked as their mother. They were selfish, sneaky, and didn't care about the feelings of other people. It was the 12th day of Christmas, and like every year, Stegjavar, whose English name is Sheep Cody Clod, was making his way down to the local village. As he spotted the sheep in the valley below, he smiled. He checked first to make sure everyone in the village was busy and wouldn't notice him sneaking around. Sheepcote Clod got his name because he loved fresh sheep's milk, and he carried a sack packed with his big steins to fill with the milk. An expert sheep sneaker, he would creep up on the sheep gazing in the pasture and steal a mug's worth of milk whenever he could. Although he had stiff legs and often clumped noisily in the fields where the sheep gazed, he could sneak up quietly. From the village, he made his way to the pasture, where he promptly snuck up on a mama sheep. Startled, a small lamb jumped up and ran crying from the stiff-legged troll. Across the field, the shepherd's son looked up to see the tiny lamb scamper to the top of a large pile of rocks. Realizing it was too high up to jump down, the lamb became very afraid and cried louder. The shepherd boy rushed to help, running so fast that one of his shoes fell off. Hiding sheep coat Clod watched as the boy jumped onto the rock and picked up the lamb. Holding it close to his chest, he kept it as safe as they could as they slid down the rock. When he released it, the lamb scampered back to its mother. Sheepcoat Clod saw the boy limp away, looking around for his missing shoe. It lay on a nearby rock. The boy sat down next to the rock, but instead of sliding the shoe on, the boy studied his foot. Sheepcoat Clod crept closer and saw the boy had cut his heel. He leaned too close and knocked the shoe from the rocks, and without thinking, he tried to grab it before it fell. When the boy looked up, he saw he was staring Sheepcoat Clod right in the face. This had never happened before, getting caught by a human. How embarrassing! There was no question in the boy's mind that he was looking at what he was looking at was a troll. Sheepcoat Clod was short, not even as tall as the boy, and his face was wrinkled like an old man's. His beady eyes were bright and very blue, and his ears were long and skinny, a little pointed and bent over at the top like a troll's ears. His long, thin face had a sharp, crooked nose, a pointy little chin, a scraggly mustache and whiskers, and a big brushy white eyebrows. The boy thought the troll looked a little like a mountain goat. Just then, the shepherd called to his son, and the boy turned to look, and when he turned back, the troll was gone. Sheepcoat Clod watched the boy limp away. This is a problem, he thought. Humans weren't supposed to see trolls. Trolls were the stuff of fairy tales and scary stories to tell at night around the fire. Everyone in Iceland knew of the Yule lads. They were famous for pranks, and like all good trolls, were scary enough that humans were afraid of them. but until now they've never been seen. Although most trolls turned to stone if they were caught in sunlight. The Yule lads had an ogre for a mother, so they were only half troll and could sneak around in the sun. If people knew they could be seen and maybe caught, would that be the end of their freedom? Would there be humans traipsing all around the mountain looking for them? Their home cave would be invaded and their treasures stolen. No, this was no good at all. He paced back and forth with a worried look on his cagey toll face. There was no other choice. He'd have to sneak down to the little boy's house and steal him away. He locked him up in the dungeon of the troll caves, where the boy could never tell his story to anyone. Satisfied, he sneered and snuck across the field, hiding behind the sheep as he followed the boy and his father to their home. As he got closer, he could hear the little boy telling his father what happened. He talked excitedly about how the little lamb had run onto the rock and gotten stuck, and he looked proud when he got to the part where he saved the lamb and protected the flock. But he said nothing about seeing a troll. He hadn't told the biggest secret he'd surely ever known, and he didn't even tell his father about his injured foot. Frowning, Sheepcoat Clod watched them walk over the hill, and as the shepherd put an arm around his son's shoulder, he could feel a strange little lump in the back of his throat. And what was that water in his eyes? That night he rested after the busy day's work. Every one of his steins and flanks was bursting with sweet sheep's milk, and his stomach was filled as much as he could drink. As he looked up at the stars, he thought about the boy and felt just a little bit bad. The boy had been hurt saving a lamb that was scared because Sheepcoat Clod had been clumsy, and because the boy hadn't told his father, Sheepcoat Clod had been able to spend the entire day chasing sheep, one of his favorite things to do. If the little boy had told his father, Sheepcoat Clod would have wasted the whole day waiting to steal the little boy, and he would have lost the entire Christmas season dragging him up the mountain to take to the home cave. He trapped his pointy chin thoughtfully. For a human, that little boy isn't half bad, he thought, pulling at the tufts of wool stuck between the rocks beside him. As sheep would wander all over the mountains, bits of the woolly coats would become caught in the rocks, and Sheepcoat Clod would collect the wool in his pockets as he stalked the herds to steal their milk. Looking at the turf in his hand, he had an idea. He would give the boy a gift. Not to say thank you, of course, and certainly not because he was grateful. He was, after all, a half ogre troll, and being pleasant just wasn't in his nature. But a small gift would be okay. All night long, Sheepcoat Clod cleaned and combed and pieced together his bits of wool, working and twisting them with his gnarled and talented hands. When he was done, it was still dark, and he snuck down to the little boy's house and found the window to his room. The boy's shoes were neatly tucked under the window sill, within easy reach, and Sheepcoat Clod opened the window and jumped inside. Sitting on a stool, he snatched up the boy's shoes and stuffed in the leper the soft wool padding he'd formed. Not only would it soothe the boy's injured foot, but it would help keep him warm as well. In the blink of an eye, he put the shoes back and slipped away in the dark. The next morning, 12 days before Christmas, the second lad arrived, just as he did every year. His name was Gildenjar, or Gully Gawk. He would spend his Christmas visit sneaking around cow barns and stealing milk from the buckets. His head was nearly bald and always covered by a dirty red stocking cap, and he had a long white beard that trailed in the buckets and smelled like the barns. As he snuck into the village, he found his brother Sheepcoat Clod behind a huge haystack, spying on a human boy. Gully Gawk watched as the boy danced around, staring at the shoes on his feet, What an odd boy, he thought. He crept closer to Coat Cod and couldn't believe what he saw on his brother's face. It was almost as if he were smiling, but that couldn't be right. A troll never smiles. Brother Troll, Gully Gok whispered, whatever are you doing? Sheepcoat Clod turned guiltily and shook his head. I'm really not sure, he said. Then he told his brother the story of the little boy. He seemed so happy, all because of a l- leaper. I think maybe it makes me a little happy too. Bah, what is happy? Gullygok scruffed. We are trolls. There is no happy except from what we steal and the tricks that we play on these silly humans. What else do we need? Har humph! Sheepcoat Clod grunted. Perhaps, but if the leaper wove him makes him happy and keeps the secrets of our cave and treasure safe, it's a good thing. Yes, that is good, Gullygok said. Just then the milkman came out of the barn, and Gullygok couldn't help noticing that she'd left the door open. Leaving his brother, he snuck inside to guzzle down as much milk as he could. For the rest of the day, Gullygok slithered from the barn, stealing as much milk as he could drink or carry. Once in a while, he wondered what his brother had said. Keeping their secrets was important. Maybe a small token left behind would be a good idea. As he thought about keeping their wonderful treasure safe, his hands worked quickly, braiding straw from the barn floor. The next morning, the children in every house found Gully Gok's creation stuck inside their shoes. A straw pony for each little boy and a straw doll for each little girl. Not thinking that this was strange at all, the children squealed with delight and happily played with all their new toys. 11 days before Christmas, Stoffer, sometimes called Stubby because he was very short and could hide almost anywhere, arrived to join his brother trolls. Of all the places he could hide, Sulphur liked the kitchen the most. He loved all kinds of food and would hide in a kitchen corner and wait patiently until he could snatch a baking pan and snack on the crumb bits stuck to it. He kept his gray beard tied in a knot so it wouldn't be in the way when he stuck his whole head in the pan. Icelandic Christmas cake, pepper cookies, cream filled buller. He loved them all. After spending all day sneaking from house to house and stuffing himself with the leftovers stuck to the pans, Stoffer settled into a comfy pile of blankets in a dark corner where he thought about the stories his brother trolls had told him when he arrived. They all knew it was important to protect their treasure, but he'd seen something else in their eyes. Sheepcoat Clod and Gully Gok seemed happy that the children had liked their gifts. How odd! He had never heard of his brothers or any troll being happy or giving gifts. Why would he want to give someone a gift? And even if he did, why would it make him happy? All Stouffer needed to be happy was a nice pile of unwashed baking pans. The more stuck on crusty bits, the better. He went outside wondering what gift he could give, and a flock of puffins in the distance. He thought puffins looked like miniature penguins, except for their wings and the bright orange of their feet and beaks. He would never admit it, but he loved those cute little birds. Then he remembered seeing the children show off their straw toys and how pleased Gully Gok had looked. As Sulphur wondered what that felt like, an idea came to him and he almost smiled. That is, if a troll could smile. It couldn't hurt, he thought. Besides, he wouldn't do it to make anyone happy. He would do it to protect the troll's treasure. 10 days before Christmas, Spoon Licker arrived in the village. Like his brother Sulphur, Spoon Licker loved food, but he was very lazy. Scraping pans clean would be too much work. He preferred to lick spoons. that was much quicker and easier. A very sneaky troll, he would often steal the spoon right out of the pot, which would allow him to try all kinds of foods. But since it was only a spoonful, he never got more than a taste of anything. As you might expect, he was the skinniest of the trolls, scruffy looking with a long tongue, a wild beard, and stringy hair hanging over his pointed troll ears. His shifty eyes moved quickly, so he could find just the right moment to rub in and steal his treats. This year he went from house to house collecting his spoons. Spoon Licker thought about what his three brother trolls had told him. Never before had they done anything for the humans or even paid them much attention. As for Spoon Licker, he thought only of their kindness and the wonderful treats he tasted from his stolen spoons. But what if the villagers tried to keep the trolls from their Christmas visits? Would they hide their spoons? Thank you for listening to this portion.